Hi, good morning everyone. So before I start with my report, I would like to say thank you first for spending your time watching this video, even though I know you were busy. I am busy. We are all busy. And since you were watching, I hope you will watch until the end and you will learn something from this. So let's start. So I want you to look at the picture in the presentation. These are stuffs for decorations and functional purposes that are made out of shells. This one are flowers that are made out of shells, and this one is a jewelry box that are made out of shells. So, did you know that the country, the Philippines, has over 4,000 species of marine shellflies? Well, I think this was not already surprising because, the country is an archipelagic country and we are composed of almost 7,100 islands. So having different variations and having abundant species of shells is no longer surprising news for us. So, since what you observe, of course, this report or this presentation is about minor aquatic products, specifically shells and the shellcrafts. So, I hope you will bear with me and as I go and discuss the shells and shellcrafts. So, before anything else, this is the report outline. So, these are the topics that will be highlighted all throughout this report. So we have five main points. What is shell, methods of cleaning shells, shellcraft making, lime making, and a short recap of what we will be discussed all throughout this report. So what is shell? So shells are produced by mollusks. I'm sorry. Shells are produced by mollusks as its outer skeleton, and it is composed of limy materials and the calcium carbonate. So limy materials, calcium carbonate. This one here, yung inside or yung laman ng shells, that is the limy materials. And yung calcium carbonate na mini-mention dito is mostly itong shells mismo. This shell is composed of calcium carbonate. So, sources of shells. So, as what I as what the definition mentioned, not me, as what the definition mentioned, shells are produced by mollusks. So, basically speaking, mollusks are the sources of shells. So mollusks, that one, that pictures flash there are examples of mollusks. The crabs, oysters, snails, cupipods, even the squids. So they are an examples of mollusks. So mollusks are soft-bodied invertebrate of phylum Mollusca, usually wholly or partly, and it is enclosed in a calcium carbonate shell secreted by a soft mantle covering the body. So, yung parang itsura ng mga shells, seashells is like yung itsura din ng eggshells. So, when you crop an egg, makikita nyo sa loob yung parang may white na nagka-cover. So, that was the mantle protecting the egg yolk and the egg white. Also, sa mga clams, meron ding mantle na nagka-cover na nagpo-protect um, sa sa kung ano man yung nasa loob, yung sa limy materials inside of it. So, accordingly, there are three classes of mollusks. The first is gastropoda or the univalve. From the word univalve, isa lang yung shell niya. So, among the three classes, this is the largest classes of mollusks. So, usually univalve, yun na nga sabi ko, having distinct head-bearing sensory organs. Yung examples are snails and cupipods. So, and then the second class is cephalopoda or the cephalodes. So, having a tubular siphon under the head a group of muscular arm around the front of the head, highly developed eyes, and having a bag of inky fluids which can eject from defense or concealment. So, from the definition itself, yung pa lang sa sinasabing having an bag of inky fluid, masasabi na natin organisms that are enclosed with this class is octopus and the squid. Kasi 'di ba, ito yung having a tubular siphon under the head. Have you tried to eat squids? Yun, kapag tinatanggal mo yung ulo, there are parang cellophane na hindi kinakain na sinasabi yun daw yung bone niya. I don't know if that's true. So, yun yung tubular siphon under the head. And then muscular arms, ito na yung mga tentacles, the 8 tentacles of octopus and squid. And then highly developed eyes and having an inky fluid, yun na yung kulay itim na ini-eject for defense yun or for concealment. Say for instance, merong silang nasa-sense na panganib, like there's something like predator. So they will eject that inky fluid and then it's black, diba? So natatakpan yung sight ng predator. So they have the chance to escape. Yun yung function ng inky fluid na acquired by cephalopods or the squids and octopus. And the last class is the bivalvia or the bivalves. From the word bi means dalawa. So they are having two identical or some are non-identical halves. So ito na yung and also they lack distinct head. Wala silang ulo unlike the cephalopods and the univalves kasi merong parang organisms nandun talaga sa loob. While bivalves, wala. And examples of this are clams, oysters, scallops, and then usually sa classic na to, they are edible. So nakakain sila like oysters, maraming oysters dito sa amin. But dollars, mahal. Marami din, clams wala. Few few plums. But we have here sa lugar namin, we have different types of bivalves na pwedeng kainin. If you're familiar with tagnipis, lampirong, bakalan, tuway, and everything, yeah, like that. Those are bivalves na present dito sa amin and they are edible and they're good. So anyway, too much for that. Let's continue. So, uses of shells or ano naman yung gamit ng shells? So, shells are both functional and beneficial. Functional because it can be turned into furnitures, into decorations, and even accessories. Yun yung mga functional benefits ng shells. But, as what I've said, bago siya mati-turn into functional stuffs like furnitures, accessories, or decorations, of course, it has to undergo cleaning and preserving kasi merong limy materials dun sa loob eh. So ang gamit for furnitures and decorations is the shell itself lang, yung outer skeleton ng sinasabi. So yun yung kailangan. And they have to 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 get rid of what was inside the shell kasi namamaho din yun or it produces of odors kapag nandoon siya. So here, I'm going to show you the 6 different methods on how to preserve or on how to clean shell. The first method is the freezing. So this was the most commonly adopted method for removing the meat from the shell. So ito yung ginagamit na method para commonly method na ginagamit para matanggal yung lamang loob, lamang loob, yung laman or yung meat na nasa sa shell. Usually, these methods, kapag ginagamit is applicable for bivalves and the univalves. Kasi yung cephalopods, yung octopus and squids, hindi naman sila niti-turn into shells, diba? Kasi, into crafts, I mean, kasi they don't have yung shells. So, freezing. Most commonly adopted method for removing meat from the shell. So, ang method nito, the procedure of this method is not directly you will put the shells in the freezer. No, not like that. The first thing you will do in this method is you're going to put the packed shells. Ipapack mo muna yung shells, of course. Alam mo naman isa-isa. So, you're going to pack the shells in a bag or any container and you'll put it in the lower part of the refrigerator, hindi sa freezer, doon sa baba, sa cooling part lang muna. Doon mo ilalagay yung shells. And then, after how many hours? Hours lang. After 2 to 3 hours, you will get that and tsaka mo pa lang siya ilalagay sa freezer for 2 to 3 days. And then, after 2 to 3 days, kailangan mo muna siyang ibaba, ilalagay mo siya again sa lower part ng refrigerator and then after that, isusok mo muna siya sa cool water para parang mag-a-acclimatize muna. I-acclimatize mo muna yung shell. So, this procedure is made para maiwasan yung cracks or yung parang what do we call that? Nagka-crack yung shells. So, that's why ganun yung process ng freezing. Not directly ilalagay mo siya sa freezer. So, you have to acclimatize it para din hindi siya mag-cause ng crack doon sa shells. Kasi, pinipreserve nga natin, diba? So, we don't want damage to happen. And then the second method is boiling live shell in fresh or salt water. So, usually ito, this is very easy kasi you will just going to put the shells or the mollusk, not the shells only. You will put the mollusk in a boiling water and then let it boil. For bivalves, as like I've said, that for clams, oyster, or ano, you're just going to boil it for 2 to 3 minutes. While for shells, for univalve, I mean, for snails like that, for univalves, you're going to boil it for 10 minutes depending sa size nung mollusk na meron ka na binoboil mo. So, after mo siyang mag-boil, so automatically yung meat na nasa loob, they will automatically matatanggal. And if not naman matatanggal kasi yung iba meron pang portion ng meat na natitira, yung parang nakadikit. So you can get rid of that using your hand or any stuffs that pwedeng pangtanggal. And then the third is the preserving. So preserving, the best preservatives for shell is 70% ethyl alcohol and then isopropyl alcohol. If ever naman ang isopropyl yung gagamitin mo, you're going to use this, you're going just to use for about 50% concentration lang, hindi 100% kasi masisira din yung shell. So preserving, so ito na yung the use of yung alcohol para ma-preserve yung shape and also tumingkad yung kulay ng shells. Yun yung other method. And then the fourth method is salting. So salting, asinan. So this is employed in an emergency situation. So if you're running out of time, so parang madalian na. So salting is the best choice for you to do for preserving your shells. So ang gamit naman na salt for salting is dapat a super saturated salt solution. And then, after which molasses will have to be soaked and cleaned by hand. So, after mo siyang ano tawag dun? Isosoak mo. You're going to use a brine solution here pala. So, brine solution with a super saturated salt solution. And then, ibababad mo, isosoak mo doon yung molos and then it's automatically parang magre-react. That's why mag-o-open yung molos and after na mag-open, you will use your bare hands or pwede din tinidor or kutsara or anything na pwedeng pangtanggal dun sa meat inside the mollusk kasi shells lang din naman yung kailangan. And then the fifth method is rotting out. Rotting out or pabulokon. Hayaang mabulok. That's rotting out. So, fine shells, fine, yung mga freshness shells are buried in a soft sand in a shade for Rotting. This procedure should be employed some distance from residential places because of odor. So as what I've said, pabulokon siya, diba? So you're going to bury it under the sand or kanang what's bury? Ilubong. So we're going to bury the shells and then let it for at least a week or what. So, hahayaan mo lang siya doon kasi after rotting out, yung shells niya is unti-unting mag, what do you call that? Mawawala doon sa, hindi din mawawala, yung kapit niya kasi the meat inside the mollusk, malakas yung kapit doon sa shells. So, kapag irarating out mo siya after how many days na nabulok na siya, of course, spoiled na. So, unti-unti siyang ma-detach na detach pala yun ma-detach doon mismo sa shell. So, but if you're going to do this procedure, it should be done dun malayo sa public kasi nangangamoy siya. And mabaho talaga yung amoy and nakakasira siya sa health. And then the last but not the least method is the bleaching. Sorry, is the bleaching. So in this method, here comes the use of mga bleach, chlorine, yeah, like that, mga chlorine. So this method is usually done para ma-preserve yung kulay or to what do we call that? Kung patingkarin pa yung kulay ng shells. So sinusoak siya in a bleach solution para lumabas yung totoong kulay ng shells. Kasi 'di ba, minsan yung shells is madumi yung kulay kasi nga matagal sila sa dagat. So, that one, bleaching. And I think we're done with the methods. And then, let's move on to shellcraft making. So, di ba, we have already cleaned our shells. Preserve na natin siya, yung gamit yung different method. So, as mentioned, uses of shells is diba, for furnitures, decorations, and for accessories and stuffs. So, after natin siyang ma-clean, ready na siya for shell crafts. So, anyway, shell crafts are craft of making decorative objects or for decorating surfaces rather using shell crafts. Ayan, that one, the buttons, lampshades, and necklaces. So necklaces, lampshade, and buttons are just some stuffs that are made out of shells. So ito lang yung um, few of the variety. Basta, ito lang yung ilan sa mga, mga examples ng mga crafts na made out of shells. So, button making. Ito naman, the button making, ito yung um, commonly crafts na nagagawa using the shells. Using shells. So, first button manufacturing in the manufacturing company in the Philippines was established in 1911 and thus stimulated shell gathering on commercial scale. So, matagal-tagal na din yung button manufacturing here in the Philippines kasi way back 1911 pa. So just wanna share kasi before the country is being civilized or bago pa ma-discover yung pag-button making out of shells, ang common or number one use ng shells before is it's used for communication purposes. So what they usually buy fishermen. So what they usually do is yung shells na anong tawag dun sa shells na pwede siyang hipan and then if you blow it will produce sound. So that sound being produced is parang way or signal to let others know na they are in that area or I don't know what the purpose is, maybe for they want to know that they were there or they need help or for what. So yun yung first na use ng shell shells bago pa man ito ma-discover na pwede siyang for buttons or for any furnitures or decorative stuffs. So, yun lang. Share ko lang. So, this one. That is a gold lip shell or Pincantada maxima. Ito siya. And then, they are, ito yung shell na usually ginagawang button. And then, like, yan, see that? That one is an example of button products na nami-made out of gold lip shell or Pincada maxima. And then another shell that is capable for making into botones is that one. That is a black lip pearl oyster. Ay, ang ganda. Ayan siya. So, imagine from that, from rough surface, it turns to be like that. Very unique na buttons. Ang ganda lang ng kulay. Wala. I was just impressed. And then the third is trokas. So, ito commonly natin tong nakikita sa mga garment section, garment, ano ba yan? Basta dun, sa mga beads. Maraming ganito, trokas. I was just 2 years old knowing na meron din palang ganito. Like, I thought of plastics lang yung mga ginagawang shells. But, plastics lang yung ginagawang buttons na I was 2 years old knowing na pwede din palang trocas, black pearl oyster, and gold clip shells. So, these are the three species of shells that are usually used or capable in turning into botones or buttons. So, ito yung um, first manufactured product ng mga ano tawag dito ng mga seashells. Materials and equipment. So, of course, we're going to need seashells. Yun na yun. Either of the three yung na-mention kanina, yung Pincada maxima, black-lipped oysters, yung trocas, yung ganon. Either of the three. So, we're going to need seashells, cutter, bleaching solution, and a grinder, cooking box, driller, sorting machine, and a turner. So the second manufactured shell product is the copy shell lamination. So this one, are you familiar with this shell? Sa Visayan, it's called lampirang, pero sa amin, it's called lampirong. Lampirong, this one. It's like the tagnipis, but the difference is it's color white, while tagnipis is black. And this is edible. Yung meat niya is very, very yummy and nutritious. But I prefer to eat tagnipis than this because this is so sweet. So that one is called lampirang or lampirong. It in English it's Capi's window pane oyster, or its scientific name is Placuna placenta. Placuna plus placuna. I think it's Placuna placenta. So that's Placuna placenta. So the copies industry is quite old, but still cottage industry for many people living near the coastal area. So anyway, copies is edible. Like what I've said, it's color orange and it's so sweet. It contains higher protein, which is 23.3% than the mussel and the oyster. So the dried capiz meat is used as component for poultry and shrimp feeds due to its high protein and calcium content. So very beneficial, very useful tong capiz window pane from the its shell to papunta sa meat niya. Very ma-utilize talaga siya. So this one is a tiles. Do you believe that it's a tiles made out of lampirong? Very aesthetic, very maganda. And this one is chandeliers. And it could also be used as lamp. So dito sa amin, we have a neighbor. He was engaged in doing shellcrafts like curtain. This one, he's making curtain made out of lampirong. And then yung mga, what do you call that small crabs in your area? We call it aligukoy, that one. So I don't know how they remove or get rid of the content, the meat of that, but Yeah, they uses also that one to make furniture, to make mirrors, curtains, chandeliers, or anything. Sure thing. So in making copy shell in lamination cap in laminating copy's shell, these are the materials and equipment that we're going to need. So mahaba kayo na magbasa kung gusto niyo. And then this is the procedure. First is cleaning. So of course, we're going to get rid of dirt, unnecessary mga things na nakadikit doon sa lampirong or sa copy's shell. And then the second is the baking. So in baking, what is done here is the the copy shell is will be put in an oven or baking steam. Yun siya ipapasok. And then the purpose is to whiten, para linisan, to whiten the shells itself. And then the second is the bleaching. Here is the shells are being soaked in bleach concentration para mas tumingkad palalo. Kasi the shinier it is, mas maganda yung result ng product na mamimake. And then the fourth procedure is gluing. So here, dun sa, di ba, I mentioned may neighbor kaming gumagawa. So the glue that they were using is, it's color white, and like bond paper color, yan, ganyan. So when you're going to put it in a shell na for gluing purposes, after how many minutes, it turns into crystal, nagiging transparent siya. So, parang kapag tapos na yung product, you cannot see a trace of glues or what in there. So, it makes it very maganda. I don't know what's the name of that glue that they're using, but yeah, yun lang yun siya nakita ko. And then the fifth, no, you gluing. So the cleaned, the bleach, yung copies is ginuglue sa either, usually ang ginagamit is wood. So ginuglue siya sa wood depending on kung anong gusto nyong design. For example, you wanna make a mirror that in shape of a heart. So gagawin mo, i-glue mo yung copies into the shape of hearts. And then the fifth method is the pressing. So the yung nag-glue na copies is ilalagay mo lang siya. You're just going to put it in a press for ipipress siya, but with the use of wax paper. So the purpose of using wax paper is to avoid yung pagdikit-dikit ng mga nag-glue na ng mga shells, kasi may glue pa yun. So kapag may wax paper, so at least na prevent yung pag touch ng shells to each to one another. One another. And then the sixth is the lacquering. Lacquering. In this method, this is where the use of um, using lacquer. It's lacquer in British, lacquer in English, and in US English. So lacquer substances is like what do you call that one, that orange, varnish? Yeah, the use of varnish, also varnishing. So you're just going to brush the pressed copy shell para mas it adds kasi. And then there are different colors of lacquer. There are green, orange, yellow, red, and anything. So yun, ginagamitan nila ng ganun kasi it adds colors and designs na rin sa nagawang laminated na copy shell. And then the last but not the least is inspection. So of course, after everything, it's like sorting. So ini-inspect if there are damage, kung may kulang pa ba, kung yung pag-press is done perfectly, if the gluing is effective, if it's clean and everything. So if it's perfect, so then it will be stored and packed and then ready for selling out of the market. So yeah, that's the procedure for copy shell lamination. Oh my god, I'm sweating. And then let's move to lime making. So lime, are you familiar with lime? It's like yung clay materials na pero mas maganda siya sa clay kasi if you're going to put it in a surface, hindi siya dumidikit. So, line making. Did you know that shells can be used to make lines as well? So, lime making, ayan, that one, that's the picture. So lime or calcium oxide, locally called apog, is a well known throughout the country, not only in connection with the custom of chewing betel nut or nanga or its what's that? But due to its valuable uses as fertilizers, poultry feeds, ingredients, and others. So, yung ginagamit for mama, like that, yung minimix nila dun sa parang ganun, I don't know. I always see that in Magay, like that. So, that's lime making or apple. So, you're going to make an apple. These are the materials that you're going to use. Shells, furnace, sodas, charcoal, pili or coconut shells, shovel rake, wire, then paper bags for packaging. So that are the materials and equipment that we're going to use. And then, the first step, and anyway, I would like to say na yung shells that are capable for lime making are those yung mga shells na hindi masyadong good yung appearance, hindi masyadong good yung quality, or not capable or acceptable for other other decorative purposes like oyster kasi ang oysters hindi siya masyadong pleasing yung shells niya. The oysters and ano pa ba? Yeah, oysters lang yung alam ko. Like the oysters. So, usually, yung mga yun yung ginagamit for making lines kasi mas lower yung value niya, lower din yung wala din may gusto sa kanya kasi yung appearance niya is not presentable. So first is mix the shells with the nutshells using shovel and rake. The proportion is 1 is to 1 or 2 is to 3 depending upon the thickness and size of the shells. So you're going to use nutshells yung sa lobe that you're going to use nutshells, not shells lang talaga. Kailangan mo rin nung not seashells and then not seashells lahat. Kailangan mo rin ng nuts. So, i-mix mo siya. After mixing, place mixed shells. Anyway, you have to pino-pino it before mixing. Yeah, what do you call that? Mm, mm, Basta you're going to grind it before you're going to mix. So after grinding the nutshells and the seashells, that's the time that you're going to place it in a furnace. So this process is burning. Yung biniburn mo yung nutshell and seashell mixture. And then to speed up the burning, you may use blower, pwede rin electric fan or what, para lumakas yung apoy. And then place sawdust and charcoal at the bottom of the furnace. So, necessary para mag-produce ng fire or para to continue the burning of the mixed shells and nut the seashells and nutshells, use the charcoal and sawdust. And then lime can be produced within 12 to 14 hours of burning depending upon the thickness of the shells. So, kailangan talagang malakas yung apoy, especially kapag oyster kasi makakapal yung oyster shells, 'di ba? So they have to be properly burned. And then after 12 to 14 hours or after na completely burned na yung mixture, you have to pile the burned shells on the concrete floor to allow them to disintegrate. To accelerate the process, para mas mapadali yung process ng pagdi-disintegrate, you can sprinkle water on the pile and then sieve the lime by using wire trays and then pack in plastic bags. Sieve is yung parang kasi it's like it's like yung um, flour na nag na what do you call that? Nahulman na name mo. It's like you're baking. Ay, sorry. Okay, we're shaking. And then, para hindi siya example, you make it into a box na. So, para hindi siya scattered, isisave mo siya using a wire trays para naka-box pa rin siya. And then pack in plastic bags. And then your lime is ready for storage and then later ready to go out to the market. And I think that's all. Oh, so for again, let's have a short recap first before I'm going to end the discussion. So it's getting mahaba na. So summary, again, shells are produced by mollusks as its outer skeleton, like snails, clams, kibipods, and so on. And then there are three classifications of mollusks: the gastropoda, univalve, cephalopoda, the cephalodes. Dito na yung mga squids and octopus. And then the bivalvia or the bivalves. This includes the clams, the oysters, the lampirang or the capis. Capis a bivalves kasi kanilang siya dikit. And then yung dahil transparent siya, 'di ba kasi it's color white, you can see the orange meat inside of it. Share ko lang din ulit. And then shells can be used as furnitures, decorations, and accessories. Again, shells are both functional and beneficial. Beneficial siya in terms of its nutrition and then functional kasi it can be used for as decorations, furnitures, and any accessories if you wanted, especially necklaces, yung mga pearls ng shells. Yun yung usually na ginagamit for accessories. But ngayon is before it's so expensive kasi of course seashells ano siya pearl, but today since we're civilized and there are cultured there are already a trend in culturing clams or any or any shells na nagpo-produce ng oyster or any shells na nagpo-produce ng pearls, I mean, gano'n, or for any shells na nagpo-produce ng shells. So, before, mahal kasi hinahanap. But now, since marami nang nagko-culture niyan, yung value din ng pearl ng mga shells is naglo-lower kasi yung stocks marami kasi nakukulture na lang siya ng kahit sino. Diba? Yun lang. And then, there are there are six methods for preserving and cleaning shell. Again, if you wanna transform your shells into functional stuffs, into decorations or what, first you have to clean it. So there are six methods in cleaning and preserving: the freezing, the salting, the preserving, the bleaching, the rotting out, and the salting. And then, manufactured shell products, yung mga products manufactured niya, especially here in our country, are buttons and copies shell laminations. And lastly is lime making. So, lime making, again, or apog, yung ginagamit for mama. Pero yun is wala pa siya, hindi pa siya sprinklean ng water kasi para pa siyang ash, diba? Yun. So sa lime is pinisprinklean ng water para maging mukhang sticky siya. So lime making is applicable for shells. Again, they are applicable for shells na lower yung quality. So, pwede rin naman yung mga shells na higher quality, but sayang kasi, di ba nga, pleasing yung appearance nila, tapos i-burn lang gagawing lime. So, probably, most probably, ang ginagamit are the oysters or yung mga other shells na pangit yung appearance. Diba? So, I think that's it. And again, thank you since you reached in the end of this video. So I hope you learned from it and thank you again. Bye.